Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The official press conference for the Anthony Joshua and Alexander Povetkin fight has been held at Wembley, with the Brit declaring the 38-year-old Russian represents the second chapter in his professional career, or at least the start of that second chapter. But I must say, after the Jarrell Miller and Anthony Joshua antics or theatrics, whatever you want to call it, from a day earlier at the DAZN USA launch, fans, media and social media have been more focused on what happened there and the fallout from it, including the comments and repeated comments that Miller is still making about Anthony Joshua's mother. So in some ways, all of that has taken away some coverage and certainly eyeballs from that Wembley presser. But what I'll do is I'll get to the highlights and then a few thoughts. So predictably, Anthony Joshua opened by saying Alexander Povetkin represents a very tough challenge and he'll be one of the best names on his record, should he win.
Alexander Povetkin, as you mentioned, gold medalist, unbelievable pedigree. Has come through the professional rankings very well. I've watched him for a long time. And, you know, nowadays I think the industry of boxing in terms of the fan base is a lot different. So maybe because first language might not be English or the social media might not be the most dominant, people should never underestimate a fighter due to fan base and stuff like that. Alexander Povetkin is one of the best fighters that I'll be facing on my record. And I look forward to it as well, actually. He's got a style that I enjoy competing with. I have no problem with left hooks, right hands, defend and the counter, and box at range as well, so it should be good. Jarrell Miller, Wilder, I had the issues like with Parker. It seems that there's always been a lot going on around my fights. You know, I've always had a fight to focus on, but there's always been a fight booked next. Like, if you beat Molina, you're going to fight Klitschko. Klitschko's sitting ringside. So I've always had that issue. And I've found it quite interesting, and I've tried to understand how to deal with these things. And over the last few years, I've been fighting 10 years now, and I feel I've always done it for fun. And I've just had fun with it because I preferred the lifestyle it presented me. And now I'm dead serious about this business. And this is chapter 2 for me. And Povetkin is the first on my list. I spend a lot of time studying, and I spend a lot of time looking in the mirror at myself. I don't, and I listen to Rob as well. And then I'm not too interested in like the praise or the criticism. I just have to look at myself. And then sooner or later, if you look in the mirror hard enough, you'll find the answers of who you really are and what you're trying to achieve. And I've been doing that since I started boxing. And as I said, I only box for fun. I went to boxing because it taught me discipline, to control egos, keep humble, and I've always said that. And now it's more about, I know I'm good at this, and I've built my mindset over the last 10 years. Now I feel very, very confident.
Вы знаете, мы нарабатываем технические действия, которые постараемся выполнить в бою. Я понимаю, что Энтони Джошуа на данном моменте чемпион мира, что простого боя не будет, но мы к этому готовы.
You know, this fight will be all about experience. I am aware that Anthony Joshua is a world champion, but we've been training hard and we're ready for this fight.
Povetkin, he'll go to the Russian mountains. He's technically very good. He's got good power as well. He's got a very good jab that's underrated. So Anthony and myself will take him deadly serious. We'll prepare diligently for the challenge, and we expect a real challenge on September 22nd.
And we do live in a sport full of hype. We've seen that particularly over the last 24 hours. But Alexander's been there, he's done it, he's fought some great fighters as well. But this young man is a phenomenon, and all those things he says he's learned in his career, he's had 21 fights. And if you want to take an independent ranking system like the Ring magazine, in his last fight he boxed number 3. Which was Joseph Parker. This time he's boxing number 3 again. He boxed number 1 in Vladimir Klitschko at the time. He's beaten number 6 in Dillian White. He's beaten number 7 in Dominic Brazil. He's beaten, at the time, I think, number 9 in Carlos Takam. He's had 21 fights. The pace that this young man is moving at and the challenge that he is willing to accept and take is fantastic for the sport of boxing, because we know he could sell out this stadium in a much, much, much easier fight. Anthony Joshua doesn't want that. He wants to create a legacy, and you're only doing that by beating great fighters.
Now turn and look at us, like that. Keep your arms folded. Keep your arms folded.
Keep your arms folded. Indeed. Okay, so the presser. It all fell a little bit flat for me. But I guess after the whole stunt from Miller the day before, it was going to be hard to live up to that sort of what had happened there, the hype that had surrounded it. And especially when in this presser, one of the guys doesn't even speak English, so there was always going to be a little bit of a barrier there. So I think it's fair to say that that New York event, because of what had happened, but also because we saw Povetkin and Joshua square off, it did rob this presser of a little bit of shine and a little bit of anticipation. And I'm sure there's going to be a few people that are watching now who would have lost sight of that there had been the second event to promote the fight. And it was the proper press conference in terms of this specific fight, not the broader DAZN stuff. But of course, we had the obligatory Povetkin. He's a tough fighter. I'm going to be ready for him. Blah-de-blah-de-blah spiel. So, I mean, that was to be expected, but the thing I was most interested in was the Chapter 2 comments. And I know previously Rob McCracken, he's spoken about the need for Joshua to improve in certain areas like, for example, movement, so he can become what he says is the dominant heavyweight of his era. And I guess when he's come through Charles Martin, Dominic Breazeale, Eric Molina, Vladimir Klitschko, Carlos Takam, and Joseph Parker in the past couple of years, and then Chuck and Dillian White from a year before that, Anthony Joshua must feel that he's ready to turn the page and enter that next phase of his career. I mean, what that actually means, though, that's another matter that's open for debate, because if it's a new chapter, that must mean he's introducing something new, right? Presumably. I mean, I couldn't really pick up on anything else from the rest of his comments in the presser that sort of pointed to how he was hoping for Chapter 2 to play out. I mean, most of his other comments were largely philosophical waffle. But in terms of Povetkin at the presser, you know, he was respectful as usual. He largely kept things short and sweet, and he's banking on his experience to be a key factor in a win for him. And he's right, if he is going to win, he's going to have to lean back on that, use all the tricks in his bag of tricks. And he's really going to have to go down deep, because we know that he's got a very good record. He's come through a lot of scraps, a lot of good contender level fights. But I kind of feel that maybe he's just lost a little bit of what he had. He's not the Povetkin of 3 or 4 years ago. But then again, the Povetkin of 3 or 4 years ago was also on some performance-enhancing substances. But he was legally allowed to take some of those at the time that they were still legal. And I do see this at this point in time, just from everything that I've seen and sort of assessed on the situation, that I would favour Joshua 70-30 for this fight. So obviously I'm leaving some chance for Alexander Povetkin, but he's going to have to do more to convince me that he's really going to have a shot in this. I think Joshua, he's the bigger man, longer reach, he's a younger man by 10 years. And he's been in some relatively good form recently in the last couple of years. Alexander Povetkin, he had that one sort of pretty stunning knockout against Duhaupas that was at the end of 2016, but that was on one-day notice for Duhaupas. But since then, you know, a couple of wins, he's looked okay, but nothing more. He is certainly dangerous, he can certainly crack, and he's certainly durable. So I don't think this is going to be some sort of knockover job. Alexander Povetkin, this is, you know, sort of almost last chance saloon for him, and he will know this, and he's going to come to fight. So Joshua, he is going to actually have a pretty decent strategy, and I think we'll see a little bit of what we saw against Joseph Parker, that he's going to keep it cautious and cagey early on. He's going to keep it long, but then I see him sort of winding into his work through the rounds, and really starting to pour on the pressure in the mid to latter rounds. I mean, he could even get a stoppage somewhere between round 7 and 9. I bet, I'm going to have a think about that one. But I do favour Joshua to come through and get the win. How about you? But yeah, getting back to the presser, it was a little bit of, it was going through the motions. There was a bunch of standard canned answers that we heard that we were largely expecting that we would hear. And I guess I'm not terribly surprised, but it certainly did lack some oomph. I mean, maybe they were weary from that whirlwind trip to the US and then the dash back across the pond. And then throw in, obviously, there's all this other stuff, this distraction from the whole Miller situation. I am also interested, are you actually interested in seeing a Jarrell Miller fight? I don't mean any fight, but a fight with Anthony Joshua and Miller. Are we actually ready for that? Or does Miller need to do more? Let me know. Drop a comment. Loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.